Okay, so this video has been requested many times. Rufus Du Sol. So I was trying to decide whether I should try and make like a whole track exactly like in their style, or if I should just remake a section of a song. And I think the fact is that their style is so like nuanced and very specific. I just don't think I'm capable of making something that sounds like them. I just don't think that kind of sound will come out of me. So I just decided to remake a portion of Ünderwater, which is probably one of my all-time favorites from them. I really love that whole album, but this song specifically. So yeah, I also ripped this vocal from the track. So there are some weird like filtering effects on it. So that's why this vocal sounds like this. But yeah, let's go ahead and just hear the loop that I remade. Okay, and let's just play it quickly without the vocal. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through basically the main elements in this. For the drums, we'll just start with the drums. I basically just sampled the kick from the extended mix here, which is a pretty standard practice in dance music, stealing other people's kicks. So in the club mix, the kicks pretty much get played on its own. So it's kind of quite easy to sample it out of there. And then the hat is just a standard like 909 style hi-hat. There's two samples here, and one's panned a little bit left and a bit quieter. And this one's like a bit more of an acoustic kind of hat. I noticed that they pan their main hat right, which is kind of not very common in dance music. Usually that main hat's sitting dead down the center. More common in like rock and other acoustic kind of style genres. And I think the reason they do this is to make space for that vocal to sit down the middle. And we've also just got this huge bass stab that's taking up so much room in the mix. It just makes sense to start pushing stuff out to the sides. And then we've got this hat loop. Again, I sampled that from the original track. I just found like a section where these hats were playing on their own, cut out like 2 or 3 of them, and then just looped it. And then we've got this rim, which was found in this HitKit sample pack. And then another rim laid together. And then I've got this groove snare. Then did this like little flammy thing where we're just playing one note a little bit lower down in pitch and just kind of flamming them together. And so yeah, all the drums together. So yeah, it's a simple but nice groove. And they've got this clap fill right at the end. So for that, I got this Oliver 808 one-shot. You could just probably use any 808 clap. And laid that with just another random clap. I don't know why I chose these ones. I was just trying to get something that sounded similar to theirs. I think they probably just used an 808 or a 909 clap. And then added some reverb to it. And then on that last hit, added this... that's just because that final clap has like such a big reverb in the original. You can hear it here. And then I also layered those in. I don't know why these claps are in this group, but I laid this in with the Cashmere clap, which just has a ton of reverb on it. Yeah, and that really helps drive the groove because it kind of emphasizes that last hit, acts almost like a fill. So if you just listen to it all together, you can hear this clap really like picks you up and puts you into that next bar. And obviously I just boosted this section over here because their clap sounded like it had a lot more mid-range in it. So without that boost here on the EQ, it's kind of a lot more flat, and that just gives that kind of like character to it. Okay, let's get into the more fun stuff. We're going to start with the strings here. So I think this was the hardest part. I actually had to message Francois from PML because he's classically trained and he has a really good ear for hearing pitch and just being able to know what note it is. Good relative pitch is the term, I believe. But I still don't think we got it 100% right. It's, if you listen to the original, it's like there's so much going on in those strings. You have like, it sounds almost like a choir or something's in there, and then it sounds like they've resampled the vocal and made some like vocal atmospheres and pads and stuff, and then layered in with some strings. So it's really hard to hear which part is playing which notes, and even what those notes are and what octave they're being played in. Really hard to pick it apart. So yeah, this arguably took the longest, and I still don't think we got it right. But anyway, this is just a basic string ensemble from Contact without any processing on it. And it's just playing these notes. So you can see it's like, it's kind of disjointed in the way you would normally write a chord progression. Usually you would have like chords all the way through, but we could only really hear this one note over here. And then over here you can kind of start to hear some harmony. Yeah, so that's the only part I'm kind of disappointed about. Anyway, I laid it with this choir from Omnisphere. It's just the boys' choir. And you can kind of hear in the original this oh kind of coming through. Oh. So that's just what I was trying to capture with the choir, and then when you layer it with the string, and that's just got some shimmer on it to really like push it to the back. Okay, then I have the sidechain group, and that's just because I sidechained areas of this differently. So the entire instrument bus has got track spacer, and that's really like just pumping the low end. But not really doing anything to the high end. And in the original I could kind of hear these notes, these plucks were bouncing or pumping like to the sidechain, so that's why I put them into a separate sidechain group and just added a compressor and enhanced that sidechain. So anyway, these are made in Diva, and as you can see I didn't even EQ them. Should probably EQ those. Yeah, there's a bunch of sub in there. So these were also kind of difficult to figure out because you can hear the top note, but it's kind of hard to hear what the bottom notes are doing. And in the original, through this section especially, you can hear that there's a lower note. It's not just one tone happening. So that's the only real section that I could hear quite clearly, that it was playing this F sharp and this D. And so this is the MIDI for it. And then I could kind of hear some notes bouncing up and down here, but I wasn't sure, so I just kind of did my own little runs in parts. Again, it's like, this is such a busy drop. There's so much going on. It's hard to like pick out all the different things. So here you can see I didn't include the bottom note because I wasn't sure if what I put in was correct. I mean, this note sounds nice. Sounds like it works over here, but then when I played in context with the track, it just didn't really fit. So I decided to just switch that off and just keep these top notes going. And then yeah, then we bring these harmonies back in down here. I think I could hear them in the original. But yeah, so the sound is literally just the Diva init patch, I think. And all I did is, it's basically just a saw wave, 2 saw waves. One's pitched up an octave, and the higher octave's just a little bit quieter. A tiny bit of feedback here. Then we're assigning envelope 2 here to the cutoff. We've got the cutoff down at 41, and we're bringing this envelope up here to 54. And you can hear the effect of that. So it's basically just a saw wave. It's nothing special, nothing fancy about the sound. And then this is our envelope shapes, basically just making it plucky. Yeah, and then going into a chorus to make it a little bit wider, and it's got a little bit of plate reverb on it. Okay, and then this is another thing that I noticed in this song that they do quite a lot of, is they have a lot of white noisy effects that are just all over the place and adding energy to it, which is actually quite surprising, because when I think of Rufus Du Sol, I kind of imagine like really organic sounding. I don't mean like organic house, I mean organic as in it sounds like, you know, a band making electronic music. It's not, you wouldn't picture a bunch of white noisy effects over it, but in reality they add a ton of effects, but they're usually quite interesting. They have like these like little, I don't know, hits, white noise hits that are playing 16th notes instead of just a sweep. So there is a sweep layered over it, and that's just made with white noise and this auto filter sweeping down at the band pass. But then it's got this other little, I don't even know what to call it, almost like a hi-hat made out of white noise that also pitches down or sweeps down in frequency. But not only that, it also pans around the field. Here you can see this moves around to the left and then comes to the right and then back to the left, and then constantly also just sweeping up and down. And then there's also a delay on it. So how you make this is you just set this oscillator to white noise, bring down the sustain to minus infinity and the decay down to like 750, and then you get this white noise that just, it's kind of like attacking like that. Yeah, and then we've got delay, and I'm just taking out some of that low end. And there's one more little bit of white noise over there doing something similar. And yeah, so not super important how these things are set up. It's more just, you know, how you listen to them in the track. What are they doing? Where they're adding energy, and you know, they're constantly creating this like fall and this rise. And I think that's the important takeaway from this. Okay, and then we have this clap. I've already gone over that. Okay, so I guess this is probably the moment that everybody would be waiting for in this, and that's these big stabs. Okay, so how these were made. Well, first of all, there's 2 layers here, but they're basically just the same layer. One of them is playing the bass line, which I managed to figure out by just listening to the end of the track, where it plays kind of without the second layer. So you'll just be hearing this. So yeah, I found that at the end, and I kind of just figured out the MIDI by listening to the end of the track. But the notes here are going F sharp, D, E, and then we go down to B, D, E, and then back to D. And then these ones, this is the MIDI here. We're doing a F sharp down to C sharp, so that's like basically a fourth. Yeah. And then we're playing this D sharp over here. So it's boom, 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 boom. And then we jump up to this A over here, which is like a sixth, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So it's kind of like an A and B section, these two. Yeah, really catchy kind of melody and full of emotion. I really like it. So let's get into the sound design of them. All right, so there's two layers here. The first one is this sample, which is from one of my packs called Warm Melodic House on Black Octopus. I think it's on Splice too. And the sample is Brass Stab 120 E01. So without the filter on it and without any effects. Oh wait, let me just solo this one. So that's how the sample sounds on its own. So all I did was just bring this forward to take out that long attack. And then I go into the controls here, and I added a bit of a amplitude envelope. So here we can see we've brought down the sustain down 6 dB and given it a decay of 72 milliseconds, and that's given it this like really hard transient, and you can hear that in the original. That transient in theirs is like super attacky. And then not only that, I also added a pitch envelope to it. So without that, that pitch really like gives it a proper smack. And then I just added a little bit of filtering here, just to take out a tiny bit of that high end. And then I layered it with the serum here, just to give it like a bit more of a synth quality. When I listen to the original, it almost sounds like they don't even use a real brass sample, but maybe it's like a synth that's been processed to sound like brass. I wasn't 100% sure, but I think this is the closest I could get. So yeah, I just went with it. So together they sound, you know, somewhat synthy, but a little bit more organic with that brass stab. Then the serum layer is basically just a, let's just solo that. It's basically just two saw waves here, one pitched up an octave and one down an octave here. So it's basically just like a respace with a bit of distortion on it. And this envelope that's sweeping down, and that's mapped to the cutoff filter. And I think they layer together quite nicely. And yeah, I didn't EQ them either. You can see I kind of forgot to EQ everything in this. It probably would have sounded a little bit better. Just to be lazy here, EQ them together. Oh no, we want sub in there. So I probably would have taken the lows out of the brass stab. Yeah, sounds a bit better. And then this one, I literally just copied the patch over to the second one, so they're identical. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll play it one more time, everything together, so you can hear it. Oh, why have I got this soloed? Okay, so all together. Alright, so let me know if you want me to do more Rufus stuff. Maybe I will attempt a full song. And if you want to grab this project file to kind of pick apart what I've done and maybe get your hands on these stabs, then I'll put it up on my Patreon. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.